Hey everybody, welcome to this video. This is Ed, and I want to talk to you about what really gets me excited in my day job. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a little bit of a different video. It's going to be one that I've been wanting to do for a long time and just haven't had the time to do that. We all have the things that we like to do and the things that, kind of excite us. And sometimes we're lucky enough to have that overlap with our careers. And for me, I'm in a space and I'm in a point in my career where I'm able to have kind of both of those things. So I talk a lot on this channel. We talk about the Supernote, we talk about Obsidian, we talk about devices that help us get our work done, help us organize our time, both, with work related things, but also with personal things, whether that's writing or journaling or just collecting thoughts. And I think sometimes we get lost in so much of the day-to-day things we have to do that we don't take time to reflect on why we do those things. So this video is, again, something I've wanted to do for a while, but also I think it kind of shows where my passions are as far as my everyday work and where I've come from. First, let's set a little bit of context. I started my academic career right out of high school as far as going to school. I went to college at 18. I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I was a first generation kid who didn't know much about the higher education system. My parents were as supportive as they could be, but they didn't know anything really about the system. And I thought I wanted to be a teacher. My dream was to be a high school history teacher. That was kind of my thing. I wanted to teach US history and world history, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I immediately went to IU Southeast and started on that journey. As I went through, I realized that that really wasn't for me. I started doing classroom observations. I still have a tremendous amount of respect for teachers and for the K through 12 system. Some of the biggest influences in my life have been teachers. But I found that my career at the time, which was emerging as a retail career, kind of derailed me. I preferred to work than focusing on my studies. And in hindsight, I think that's been kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, I would never tell someone that they should not go to college right out of high school because I don't believe that. If you have the means and the opportunity, you definitely should. And if it's something you're passionate about, if you're not, passionate about trades or passionate about some other occupation where that may not be a required component, then again, education is always valuable. I basically kind of couldn't find my way, wasn't sure what to do, and ended up not finishing my degree. And instead went into retail management and worked at several high profile companies across the Eastern Seaboard and also here in the Midwest, and even did some dabbling in real estate. So I was doing a lot of things. And, there was always something missing, though, something that I felt like I should be doing, and I just hadn't been doing. Fast forward to when I was 30, and I had become a new father and had all these other responsibilities. I was working at the time for Target as a logistic manager for them, a logistics manager in the stores, and making, by all accounts, good money, but working 90 hours a week for that. And I just, at the same time, we lost my little sister, and I decided to make a move back to the Midwest, back here to Indiana. And the reason I set this context and the reason that I kind of lay this out is that to me, that was a turning point, a pivotal moment. I had all of this management experience working in different environments, whether that be in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Northern Virginia, or back here in the Midwest region. In 2005, I came back. I actually got my certificate, associate's, and bachelor's degree within a year because that's how little college I had left to complete in order to get there. And I got my degree in labor studies. And that was kind of the moving point of me really getting ignited in this search for education. And so what I did was I began thinking through what's the next step. Well, as an adult learner, someone who came back as a 30-year-old person trying to learn new things, I went on immediately to my master's degree, which is in adult education. And adult education covers a lot of things. It's not just returning older adults, it's actually anybody who is an adult, 18 or older, anybody out of the K through 12 system who is engaging in lifelong learning. So that spans the entire spectrum. And maybe we'll go into that at another time, but that's where I went. And during all this time, I'm still working. I'm doing retail banking management, I'm doing retail, I'm doing all these different things. And I finished my degree in adult ed. And by this point, I'm married to Melissa. Now we're a family of five, and we're just, continuing to grow. I thought, well, can I take this a step further? I'm not sure if I should, but maybe I will. And I had a long conversation with Melissa and the family and decided to pursue a doctorate in organizational leadership. Again, mind you, working the entire time. At this point, I started to think about, can I pivot? Can we do something different? Can I make a career change? Because the hours in any type of retail banking or retail service industry are extremely brutal. And I was balancing all of these things. And you can do that. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying here. You can do that. But for me, it was a big seismic shift. What did we do? Decided, went into the doctoral program. During that, in my second year, we had Corey, so now we're a family of six. I was still in banking management, and we were doing kind of a part-time uh, instructional design exploration. And I decided to take a pay cut and switch over to be an instructional designer at a staffing company in Indiana. And that was hard, I'll be honest, but it taught me a lot. So my passion was learning, training and development. I had done it in retail. I wanted to do it more broadly. And my goal was, and I was already starting to think about this, to eventually be able to either do some kind of development and design work as a consultant, and we formed our own company to kind of explore that, or to eventually break into the academic space. Because by this point, I was also teaching part time for what was at the time Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. And since they've split into two separate entities. And so I was teaching, I was working as an instructional designer, I was going to school full time, and we were just trying to make ends meet and do things the best we could. Fast forward again, and I got the opportunity to work in a law school environment as an instructional technologist. So we put the company on the back burner. We were no longer really doing as much consulting work. I went full time into academics, and I helped law school faculty reimagine their courses, do online learning, transition different things from a face to face medium to online. And that's where I really started to find it. I really started to realize that that's the thing that I probably enjoy the most, because and I say I enjoy it the most because it combines kind of everything I've always done prior to that. It combines the customer service aspect. It combines the interpersonal relationships and conversational aspect. It combines adult learning. It pulls in experiential learning, things that I had taken as a student that I could then translate and convey to faculty members trying to do something different. And so I spent 2 years at the McKinney School of Law in Indianapolis, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. Move forward again after those 2 years, and I had the opportunity to work for the Associated Colleges of the Midwest as a liaison to their 14 campuses, talking about all of these same things that were really cool in my space as an instructional technologist at the law school. But now I could do that on a much broader level. I could see what was happening on 14 campuses in 5 different states. And I could share that information broadly through this consortium to help faculty members connect with each other and create new things and do new classwork and create programs. It was so much fun. Now, and I'm leaving out a lot here, but I also don't want to bore you with my entire resume. You can check that out. You can see I've got a lot of information online. It's really important, though, to understand this journey piece and how I've gotten to where I am now. And so all this time, I'm continuing to teach. I'm still teaching at IUPUI. I've taught there 15 years at this point of this recording. And I get this opportunity to go work with the same person I worked with at the law library. And she calls me and says, we're doing this capital campaign at a municipal library. I'd really love to have you work with us as a director of operations. Can you come and do that? And it was a phenomenal experience. It's kind of a departure from this academic realm I had entered, but also very valuable for what came next. And if there's anything that I hope you get out of this video, and it's going to be a little bit disjointed, it's a little bit less organized in some ways as far as we're setting the trajectory, and then we're going to talk about something that's happened very recently that I'm excited about. But one thing that I hope you get is that our experiences define who we are. And I've talked about this in other videos, but that doesn't just mean our individual experiences. It doesn't just mean our personal experiences. It also means our professional experiences. And for me, understanding that what I've done as a part of who I am is very important. So I went from working at this very high level in the academic setting with these colleges to help connect everything from using technology to talking about in the classroom, very much pen and paper type activities, all of these different engagement strategies, to now, effectively running a large part of a municipal library in the state of Illinois. And we got hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So in my responsibilities, I was over finance, human resources, facilities, and information technology. I learned so much from that experience, but there came a point the director was retiring. I wanted to be closer to home, and Valparaiso University was hiring, and they were hiring for someone to work with them on instructional design and technology and assessment. And I took that position. I interviewed. I was very thankful to be able to be selected for that position. And now my current role is as the executive director of what we call CITL, which is the Center for Innovation in Teaching, Assessment, and Learning. Now, I won't go into a whole bunch of detail about what I do, but again, when I said that I got to the law school and it kind of clicked, and this is the thing that I wanted to do, and then I got to ACM and I could build on that, and now this is the thing that I really could want to do, and it combined all of my stuff. Well, now I'm in a position where it combines even more of those things. So not only am I still doing some budgeting, am I still doing the operational managerial leadership side of things, but I get to connect with faculty and I get to provide and help them through professional development. Again, understand more of the teaching and learning environment, navigate new technologies, understand if technologies are right or wrong for them, and really serve as, hopefully, as a partner for them to realize their own vision for their own courses. So that's context. And I apologize that that was a little bit long, but again, I want to be authentic and I kind of want to set the stage for the specific thing that we're talking about here. Now, this leads me to something that I was super excited about to participate in last month and have not been able to have time to share a video about this experience yet. And I'm so happy to be able to do that now. I went to InstructureCon as part of my current role, and we are moving and changing learning management systems. And the learning management system that we're adopting is Canvas, which is an Instructure product. It was actually their first product years ago. And I was there when Indiana University transitioned to this platform. This is not a sponsored video. This isn't me in my official capacity with the university talking about this product. This is my personal professional development journey that I went through as a part of my job to understand even more kind of where things are going in the educational technology space. So that being said, I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands this is coming from a place of professional development, of continuous learning, not because I'm chummy with the folks at Instructure, although I do believe they're a great company. And it's all about my personal excitement coming out of this conference and why I think it's so important. InstructureCon is a little bit different than some of the conferences. I think they use con as a way to kind of talk about it almost like a Comic-Con or sci-fi conference, comic book conferences, all of these different things that you see. It's meant to be a little bit more fun. They have activities that include everything from a costume party to what they call hack night, where you get to talk with engineers. And if you're an educational technologist, talking to the engineers that actually build the stuff you use is kind of that geek out moment of, wow, I get to actually talk to the people building this stuff. It's almost like talking to your favorite comic book illustrator in some ways, or your favorite artist. Anyway, so those are just some of the things they did. And Hack Night to me, by far, was one of my favorite extra activities. We're not talking about the formal conference piece as far as like sessions. It was one of my favorite non-session driven things because it was after hours, it was at night, and it was really fun. However, I do want to talk about just the general vibe of the conference. And if you go to a lot of business conferences or you go to a lot of academic conferences, if you're in academia, the biggest problem is a lot of times you go, you get really energized about, I want to do these cool new things. And then you come back and you realize there's a lot of stuff you have to do that doesn't include these cool new things. What was really interesting about this conference is a lot of the sessions were geared towards the things you're already doing and how to make those things better and more efficient. So here's where we pull in my organizational lens. Sessions I went to, and I'll put up on the screen and in the description a lot of the session titles because it's really interesting to me. Uh, but like we're designing blueprints or thinking about templates and all these things for what we're going to roll out with our Canvas instance. They went through why you should use a specific one. Are there things you should avoid? What are the pitfalls? What are the challenges? Are all of them equal? Are there things you should consider not doing? And they did this with every topic. So everything from how you use basic functions of the system to reimagining innovative ways to use a function in the system to do something different. And for me, that was energizing in and of itself because I want to see real world things. I don't want to just hear the ethereal, theoretical stuff. And sometimes that's where you get with conferences is you get, again, it's always good information. The learning is always good, but I want to see the real practical in the moment use. And I think that's where I was really excited about this conference. They had several keynotes. The first keynote, very inspiring. They talked a lot about the evolution, the history. They were talking about this Ecological Exploration Society is what they called it. And so I have my t-shirt on, which is a lot of fun. They had all kinds of different nature-themed events, but that's kind of a departure. We're inundated today with this idea of artificial intelligence. And AI in some ways has become a buzzword. So there's machine learning, then there's AI, and they're connected, but not exactly the same. And I think we have to be careful as a society and as academics, especially in how we talk about these things. But they started to talk about AI, and they started to talk about some of the tools that were coming in Canvas to help not only faculty, but students be able to navigate writing, course creation, content consumption, all of these different things. As they were talking, and I can't remember the actual, and if I find the clip for this on the web, I will share it with you. the officer from Instructure who was talking about this was like, who better to explain the tool that we are focusing on, which, by the way, is called Conmigo, and I will put a link to that down below. And if you hear Conmigo and your mind goes to Khan Academy, there's good reason for that, because guess what? Conmigo is Khan Academy's approach to AI. And for those of you not familiar with Khan Academy, I won't go into like the full detail here. I'll link some videos below in the details. But Saul Khan's story is one of my favorite stories ever, because the snapshot version is his niece was having trouble in math. He was a hedge fund manager. He started tutoring her online and started creating videos to help her understand math. She became very successful, went on and actually got moved into advanced math. And then out of that, relatives, friends, everybody said, you should put this online. You should put this on YouTube. And now you have Khan Academy, which helps thousands, if not millions, of students, adults, people who are just wanting to know more real world tips on how to learn advanced or even basic topics that you may not have been exposed to. Huge fan of Khan Academy. And I think it's one of my favorite stories as far as how learning can occur and grow naturally. This was a fanboy moment. This was a geek out moment for me. So the person is presenting and they said, well, who better to tell you about these new features and this new tool than Saul Khan? And he wasn't on the agenda. He wasn't scheduled. He wasn't even, nobody knew he was going to be there except for the Instructure folks. And bam, Saul Khan walks out on stage. The entire place goes crazy. He tells the abbreviated version longer than what I just said about his story. So it's definitely worth watching. But then he starts to talk about how they intentionally have built into Conmigo, which is now partnering with the Canvas LMS, these tools to help faculty members and to help students address real world issues and concerns in the academic space. So not always spying on you, artificial intelligence, not open, take my data, all you want, artificial intelligence, but very purposeful, targeted, can you help me with my workflow, artificial intelligence. And I won't go through all of the things he mentioned, but I want to highlight two. One is extremely helpful for, and there are different approaches to how someone may do discussions in their courses. One approach is to be very engaged and constantly have a back and forth with students. And that can be very useful. And especially if you have a group of students who don't mind that level of engagement from an instructor, it can be very valuable. And there's no right or wrong way here. It depends on your approach, your demeanor, how you craft your assignments, all these other things. The other, though, and the one that I've subscribed to over the years, is kind of a hands-off approach until everyone has had their say. So I will put up a discussion topic or question or ask them for a reflection, and then I will let them talk it out. And once they are done, once they get to the point to where the discussion has closed, I will come back in and I will provide kind of a high level summary and kind of fill in the gaps and talk about what I thought was the most important out of all of their discussions. Now, as you can imagine, in a smaller class, which I've been fairly fortunate to have, but there have been times that I've had 90 students, 100 students, that becomes pretty cumbersome to read every single discussion post, and even more so if you're doing them individually. So you have to kind of make a choice of how much do I read, how much do I process, how much time do I have to do all of that. One nice thing in Conmigo, which is really cool, is that you have this discussion summary tool. And one thing I think is really important here is going to be to test this, and that's why it's a feature preview. But this idea that, can I, as the professor now, click on summarize, get a summary of all of the discussions that have happened, not just the initial postings, but every reply. And I can then say, okay, what were the high level themes? And I can use the AI in a very effective way then to synthesize what my response should be, not to create my response. My response is still mine, but it can give me underlying data to understand what the conversations were that were happening in that specific context without me having to read every single post in depth and take these huge copious notes to then turn that into that. It can give me a starting point. It can give me a high level summary. Now, again, there's some testing that has to happen here. We know AI hallucinates. We know there are issues with AI. But is this a way to help streamline that process? So that's just one example. Really, really cool. And it's something that I can see myself using. It's also contained within Canvas and Khan Academy so that you're not as worried about the privacy issue aspect. I would compare it to the Apple Silica network and the ChatGPT arrangement they have, because you still have a limited number of companies that are kind of pulling this data or processing it. And I think that it's important that the companies like an Instructure, like a Turnitin, who does a similar thing with some of their different products, like Khan Academy, Conmigo, uh, I think it's really important for them to have these agreements saying, hey, we're going to use your service and we're going to, you know, have you help us with this data, but we need to make sure you're not mining it and selling it and doing things that are not helpful to the consumer on the educational end, especially. So I think the fact that it exists behind the learning management system through a platform that is based on a nonprofit educational model, then going out finally to the for-profit model, but with restriction, is very important. So anyway, that's my little tirade on AI and privacy. And Voya had a really good recent article on AI with that. Now, here's the really cool part from the student side. And this is where I think we could really have some interesting overlap or some interesting long-term applications of this type of technology. What Conmigo does and is in development, which will be here soon, is going to be, they will allow students to, as they are writing within the system, within the learning management system, as they're crafting a discussion post, as they are uploading documents that they wrote in Word or in Google Docs, they will allow them to run that through Conmigo to give them advice or to give them guidance. Now, Grammarly does this to some degree. A company called Packback does this as well. They allow you to have just-in-time interactions around, your writing style, flow, process, all of these different components. Grammarly kind of allows you to point click, so you can have it kind of correct it for you, and that's a little less. It explains it, but you have to read that explanation. So to me, that's not quite as valuable, although full disclosure, I use Grammarly in my own work, but I also do read why it's saying the thing, because it may not be accurate. There's sometimes word choice it doesn't get right. Packback has the scaffolding structure. It's a paid service, so it will give you suggestions. It will say, check this sentence for clarity. You might want to rethink, and it'll give you an example sentence. Again, similar to what Grammarly does, but not 100%. And then the cool thing about that platform is if you hit a wall or if you're having the same types of problem, you can click help and get a live tutor. And again, it's an at-cost service. You get a live tutor who can then help you in real time navigate your writing. Kind of cool. With Conmigo and this approach for them, you can get very similar functions to Packback that allow you to see, where is my writing not clear? What are the common roadblocks I'm running into? What are the challenges that are happening? Am I not citing? Am I not using the right style? And then the cool part about the Conmigo approach is not only does the student see that and get that real just-in-time feedback, but it gets shared with the faculty member. So now the instructor sees my student is struggling with sentence structure. My student is struggling with citing sources. My student is struggling with clarity of thought. All of that is then rolled up, and now in real time, that instructor is able to intervene and really help the student move along and move further. Let's sum up real quick what this kind of rambling discussion in a way has been about. I'm really excited about the work I do. My main 8 to 5 job. I love the fact that I get to oversee a Center for Teaching and Learning. It invigorates me. It adds purpose. It allows me to see that education is not a static commodity. Higher education, unfortunately, has been under attack uh, relentlessly. And I think that's unfortunate for a couple of reasons. One, higher education is not this, we all sit under a tree and read a book and have a group discussion. It can be. And in some cases, that's very important. It's also not, we're just preparing you to build widgets or to do a specific task, although it can be. And again, I think we need to be real careful when we talk about education. We're we're talking about developing people, developing the way that they think about the world, developing the way, and not even developing. That's a good word in that we're developing capacity, but we're also encouraging. We're also really pushing the individual who already knows where they think they fit to explore, expand, make connections in ways they may not have thought of before. I mean, if I told you that English classes aren't just reading, although there's extreme value in reading classical texts and all of those things, but they're not just that anymore. We have professors on our campus who are teaching game design and game theory as part of storytelling and English writing capabilities, and bringing in industry experts to not only talk about how they develop stories and timelines and virtual worlds and alternative realities, but to show how they do that and encourage a whole new generation to go down that path. Nursing programs, they teach more than just how to do the tasks involved in being a nurse. They teach about empathy. They teach about that human connection. They really kind of explore what it is to be human. And, the more we try and say that you only learn theory in the classroom, the more we minimize people's lived experiences. And so I would really encourage, and hopefully if this video has done anything, it's kind of explained my journey. I went the work route first and the theory second and the practicality all along the way. And that was effective for me. It worked. But was it the most efficient way? I wouldn't undo any of it. I wouldn't change any of it. I think that we live our lives in a way for a reason. We learn from those experiences. They make us who we are. And it allows us to be better human beings. But I am never going to minimize the person who started, went through college, maybe had a part-time job, maybe did not, entered the workforce after college, maybe went straight through and got a master's and then went straight into academia. All of those perspectives, all of those individual journeys, they're all valid and important. And if we can do that, if we can understand that, it's why I like my job. Only in my job in a university do I get to see the diversity of thought, of execution, of development across any discipline you can imagine. Just this last week, I have worked with chemists, I've worked with English professors, I've worked with um, biology, kinesiology, nursing, business. The list goes on and on and on. And it's that that excites me. It's that that gets me up in the morning and has me saying to myself, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. And I teach part-time and I teach leadership and I love that component too. And it still connects. What I'm doing here right now connects to my professional life. I'm talking about technologies. I'm talking about organization. I'm talking about leveraging media and technology tools to make better things. So thank you very much for kind of joining me on this ramble. I'm not sure 100% how the edit's going to come out. I'm going to leave that little line in just so you know that this was a fairly lengthy discussion with myself and you. But thank you for being here, no matter what this video length was. It's very important to me that as a community, we have a back and forth. But I wanted to give you an idea of why organization is so important to me. And this is why. It directly supports who I am and what I do, both at a personal and a professional level. And it allows me to do this new thing, which is YouTube, in a way that intersects all of those differing and competing parts of myself. So if you enjoyed the video, please like. If you aren't subscribed, which 80% of you are not, crazy, even though these are people who come back and view my videos. If you are not subscribed, please do so. It will only make the algorithm push this out even farther, and it will also make me feel a lot better. I love the fact that you're watching my videos, but again, if you could subscribe, please comment, share your own experiences, share your own stories. If there's anything about this channel I hope that we've done as we've developed it, is that all voices are welcome. If you're an academic and you are doing the academic thing all the time, share your story. If you're in training and development in a retail environment like I was for years, share that story. If you're on the factory floor and your story and you're maybe just now going back to college, share that story. If you're in a trade and you are very happy with the fact and where your life is taking you and what you've learned about being a carpenter or being an electrician or in plumbing or HVAC, whatever it is, share that story. Those are the things that make us human and make us identify with one another. So again, thank you. Like, subscribe, add your comments, add your questions. Let me know if there's other content like this you would like to see. I would love to hear your voice. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you soon.